and hello, and thank you for coming here for my test. I'm going to do a safety test. I'm about ready to produce or release a video of how I repaired the interlock door switches, where I ended up putting silicone inside the switch where the electrical contacts are, and what I used was a dielectric grease. So what I'm getting ready to do is I've got a fire starter cube. I'm going to put some of this on it and then light it and just determine what kind of a reaction it gives. I'm hoping it's more of a melting effect, but if it's in a, if it's in a, like a napalm ball, then I've got to scratch my head and think about whether or not I should show that other video. So that's what we're getting ready to do. Hope you don't mind watching a grown man play with fire. Not recommended. Do not do this at home. I am not a trained professional, but I do have a little open area that I think all this will be safe in. So let's see what happens. So here's my briquette chimney starter here with the fire stick and a glob of this silicone electrical grease, and all I need to do is reach in my pocket, find my lighter, see if I can light this thing as far away from it as possible so that I'm not influencing it directly. I think it has lit, but I'm just kind of keeping the flame here for a minute just to really make sure it's started. Yep. And now I can stand up. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Now that I'm standing, I'm a lot more comfortable. So, if you're seeing this, you haven't seen the other video yet because I haven't released it because I didn't want to produce bad advice. But I'm talking about making the door switches on the Masterbuilt a lot more reliable. And I'm seeing that a lot of the switches are being ordered from Masterbuilt to the point where they're not available online. You gotta, I guess they're on back ordered, or they'll notify you when they are in service. So I ended up taking one of my switches apart and discovering that they look great inside, but they were being hampered by our cooks as far as the grease and smoke ash getting inside there and actually causing resistance across the contact points, causing the switches to be intermittent, or so they fail right in the middle of a cook one day. So I took all three switches apart, and then after I washed them all off and degreased them, I ended up putting this inside the switch to basically coat the contact and make sure that electricity passes through it freely without any problems. And then on top of that, I believe that because this is inside the switch and being mooshed around, that anything in the way of smoke or contaminants will not make its way in there. So the good news is the flame has licked against it a couple of times and it didn't take off like gasoline, so that's good. The rest of this video, if you're kind of wondering where this is headed, is that after I determine how many fire extinguishers I need, I will break in my switches on where I just basically heat up the Masterbuilt gravity feeder series smoker, and I'll do it first at the lowest temperature setting that I can. I'm kind of curious if this stuff melts like wax, candle wax, because if it does, then that's going to drip inside the cooker, and that's not going to be desirable. And then the other thing is I want to make sure these don't go off like cherry bombs, because I'm going to eventually take the stove up to about a 500 degree temperature and try it at the high end. And then after that, I think I will run it even up to about 700 degrees for about 30 minutes, and then I will shut her down and look for signs of this stuff melting or doing whatever it's doing. So right now it seems really like it's avoiding trying to catch on fire. That's a good sign, at least at this point. I mean, because even in our cookers, we're not going to get direct flame on it like this. Okay, I do believe that a part of it is starting to burn a little bit like a candle wax, which would be expected. Well, nothing can stop it from doing what's going on now. It's almost surrounded by fire. And in a way, it doesn't seem like it's helping the fire burn. If anything, it seems to be doing a good job of staying under control. Soon now it's going to be completely surrounded, and that's where I'll be able to see what happens in the melt test. Basically what I'm seeing right at the moment is that I believe the switch would have to actually melt by the time this stuff got into trouble. Amazing. I'm not detecting any aromas, and I was actually sort of in the path of the smoke there for a moment. That's why I shifted myself here. Completely surrounded by fire, and it seems the fire brick is, or the fire starter is the one that's producing all the flame so far. So this dielectric grease does not seem to be a fireball by any means. It's holding up really well as far as still being there. So it's not burning up like a fuel yet. I believe the dielectric grease will last longer than the fire stick, which will be interesting. So what I'm seeing here is that the lump of dielectric grease that I put on there did not spread out flat and run off the ends like melted wax, which was one of my concerns inside of the switch, that if the switch were to heat up, would this actually melt and run out of the switch and then go, you know, basically onto your patio or deck or wherever it was. And maybe you know, my fear also was that if it did drip, would it drip like burning plastic with little fireballs, you know, dropping down. But so far all that's put to rest. It looks like anything that I put inside the switch is going to stay inside the switch, in that it hasn't gone anywhere here. So looks like it's still on my recommend list as a repair. Okay, I just wanted to get a little stick here. Now that this is actually burned down and this is here, I'm kind of curious. We know that it's like a thick Vaseline, and oh, it's still in there like that. It just created a skin. But now that I opened it up, right in the smoke again. Now that I opened it up, it did sort of light up again. However, it's creating a skin. And that it's creating a skin, it's going back to not burning, which is interesting. So it's not like it's putting itself out, but it's not like it's accelerating anything. So I guess at this point I need to watch it to the end. Maybe it burns like a briquette very slowly, and that would be ideal. So it's not an explosive fire, it's not a spreading fire, it's not a melting fire. It will burn, but so will the switch. The switch is plastic, and if it were exposed to direct flame, it would burn. So this is kind of, well, I don't know what category to put it in, but I don't think I'm going to worry about it. So if I went over there with the stick now, I would be able to slice off another piece, and it would be very much still a grease inside. So, wow. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to conclude this part of the test and call it successful. It is not something bad to put inside of a switch based on this. Now to actually do the barbecue. Okay, now what I have done is I lit it. I put probably about an hour's worth of Weber briquettes in there, and I've got the grill set for 150 degrees. I want to get it all nice and even at 150 degrees, probably for about a half hour, and then from there I will then go and kick it up to 500. Probably run that for about a half hour, 45 minutes, and then kick it up to 700 until all the coals are gone. I'll just let it burn itself out this time. And I'm almost getting more smoke at 150 degrees than I get at 275 during a startup. This is amazing. Normally I would probably stand over here so you can see what's coming out of the back. So now the fan is cycling, so it's obviously inside at 150. Oh, pardon me. Like I said, that's a lot of smoke. I mean, look at that. So I've got the Masterbuilt app running, and you can see that it's at 148 degrees. So I've got it set for 150. So that would be your low and slow right there. That's for sure. And I'm about ready to set the timer on this for about 25 minutes or 20 minutes or so before kicking it up to the higher degree. Let's make it 22 at this point because it's been running a little bit. Alright, so 150 it's set for, it's running at 148, set for 22 minutes, but it's saying there's 21 left. I think I'm going to go to the higher level now, where I really kind of try to season those switches. So let me get to here. Fan immediately kicks in. And well, I may not overshoot at all. Okay, this is where I'm now going to check what happens if I open the door to that fan. So this should say open. It does. But the fan continues to run. That's amazing. I kind of would have thought that that would have killed the fan. I know if I open the fire doors, the fan stops. And oh yeah, it's like a summer day in there now. Okay, you guys are clever. What does the switch on the hood do? Does it mean I don't have the right software level inside my PID? Or did I just not read the fine print someplace? Okay, at this point now I'm getting ready to bump up the temperature a little more. So when I go to the device, the app, 700 is high as it can go. And I've never been there before. But I am cleaning my grill. I want to get all the rib oils and bacon and stuff out of there, and then when it cools off I'll clean it all up inside, knowing that most of the grease will have been taken care of. Temperature is reached. Of course, now I'm curious. Well, the wall's not hot. I wanted to make sure, because they recommend that you stay 10 feet away from things, but you know, that's about 15 inches and it's not causing me any wall damage, you know, heat, so that's good. Now let's see what it looks like inside the beast. Oh yeah, burning off all that stuff that was on the hood. Alright, at this point I'm just going to lower the temperature to a steady point, get it away from that 700, and then just let it burn the rest of the charcoals out until it's nice and cool, and then I'll come and clean that thing up. So that's where I'm at with this. It performed admirably, and I saw no problem with any of the switches that were rebuilt. I didn't see any melting of the dielectric grease. So it's kind of another one of those things that I'll be able to keep reporting on. But my first electrical problem that I had due to switches got wrapped up by taking them apart, finding out that there was basically cooking grease inside the switches, washed them out, packed it with dielectric grease, put them back together, ohmed, checked it, and found that from before cleaning the switches to after cleaning the switches, that the meter showed incredible stability with the dielectric grease inside of it, where before the meter would, if I would, you know, like take the switch and move it just a little bit in the contact range of the switch, the meter was showing all kinds of fluctuation. But then after the grease was put in it, no matter where I put it, it was either off or on, and it was as solid as can be, and that's what I wanted, so that's what I got. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Just as a note, this video is in my private library, and there's no way to search for it or find it on the internet. The only way you can get here is the way you did, and that was clicking on the card in the prior video, which I thank you very much for doing. Have a great day. Bye.